Hey guys, so today's video is sponsored by Exasolite Lip-In Hair Extensions. And these extensions are very lightweight. They just snap in and you use your natural hair. Use your natural hair to cover the extensions. Also, these extensions are only washable in cold water. You have to use conditioner and you rinse it out. You hold blot your hair with a towel and leave it to dry naturally. Okay. It also comes with extra clips. So let's take these out. Comes with extra clips, and so they give you this wonderful little packet needle and thread. And you can also use buttons to secure them. I'm not really sure what the buttons are for. It's kind of weird, but yeah, you can use the thread to like add extra clips to the extension. So as you can see, there's my leave out, and you just put the leave out over the extensions. You can wear it like half up, half down. You can put it in a ponytail, but they're really cool. They're really neat. And so shout out to XSASLYET at Extensions, brought to you by Amazon. Um, there's one more product before we get into today's message. This is my first podcast of the year, for 2026. I'm so glad that you made it. Love you guys so much. The second thing that I wanted to really express, regardless if you're an inbred child or you were just produced from two non-related parents, anyone who has chromosome issues, anyone who has like a sensitive immune system, um, it's so imperative that you choose your tattoo specialist carefully, okay? These are actually real ink. These are real ink. This one is temp. This is what I want to get permanently inked. As you guys know, my pattern is like roses and tigers or lions, rose petals, tigers, lions, and butterflies. It's very significant to the way that I was brought up. It represents, the love of my ancestors. This butterfly represents my father, who expressed on paper in all his actions before he left this earth at the ripe age of 45. He was so young. I'm 37 right now. My dad was 45 when he gave up the ghost and left. I was about two and a half, I believe. So yeah. In remembrance of my father, this butterfly, I have more butterflies here for some of my other relatives that have passed away. My nana, um, you know, big ground, little ground, guys, you know, we have to realize that as humans, sorry, let me fix my computer for you. There you go. That's a little realize like as humans that no one knows the day, the hour, or the time. No one knows the day, the hour, or the time that, God is going to call us and say, hey, you've been diagnosed with a new illness. You've been diagnosed with a stroke. You've been diagnosed with a heart attack. You've been diagnosed with one of your organs failing or shutting down. Um, at 37, guys, let me tell you, I'll be the first to let you know that um, it's frightening, being that I have recessive genes, which means that some of my genes copied double times because my parents are related. And so, yeah, being that I have recessive gene disorder and never finding any of this out until last year, never finding any of this out until last year, never was told by any doctors or anything. Um, I think sometimes when a child is born from being inbred and the child is high functioning like me, I'm not bragging. There's so many like me that have really bad disorders, and I pray over you. And It's a very, very, very difficult thing to produce an inbred child that's high functioning with as least possible medical issues as possible. So I just want to give living proof to the world that I am one of those children that, yes, my medical issues are starting to show now. My medical issues are coming out in my mid 30s. And so guys, it's hard to say this, but I have several medical issues right now. Just pray for me. They're not sexually related, they're not from STDs, they're from genetic disorders. Like I said, my genes copy double time. And so it's throwing off a few things in my body. And so, therefore, I am now about to get the specialist that I need. And so, if you're one of those children that were born like me and never knew. And, you know, as a baby, the person who's on my birth certificate, I featured in my videos and everything on my channel, she's all I have known up until age 36. She's all I have known to be. She's on my birth certificate. There's so much about my life that is mysterious, and there are answers that I may never get. My father passed away when I was 2. I showed you guys my birth mom on my channel. There's so many things that just match up. We have the same freckles, we have the same forehead. I have her pigment. One of the things that recessive gene disorder does is it messes with your pigment. So sometimes I'm lighter and sometimes I'm darker. My father was just a little bit darker than my mother. And so it's like people tend to be like, "Is that you?" When I was a kid, I had more of my dad's color. And so now what I'm finding is that a lot of people who went to school with me, a lot of people that grew up with me, sometimes they don't believe that I'm me. And that's because the mutation, in our genes, sometimes you reach back. And so now I'm displaying my mother's color, which she's extremely light skinned, right? And so you're going to need a lot of therapy and you're going to need people who love and care about you, and you have to be very careful. You know, you have to be careful about what you put on your body. There's several allergies that have came out within the past year, the past 6 months. I'm learning about allergies. Like the doctor said, you've always had these allergies. It wasn't on your medical records, but somehow, mysteriously, all my allergies are starting to just pop up. And so last year on my birthday, I had a major allergic reaction. And for fear of my life and just for my personal safety, I'm not going to say it online what it is. But yeah, so last year on my birthday, I found out one of the major allergic reactions. And one of the things that we have to learn as new things come out, if you're like me and you're older, or if you're a smaller child watching this video, at least 13, sometimes they may not tell you everything that's wrong with you. And we have to stay positive because there's already so much of a stigma around how we were born. And there are others, and there are some people that were inbred that look like me, and they are bound to a wheelchair. They are bound to crutches. They are bound to different disorders. Some of them can't move their limbs. Some of them can't move their head. And so no matter what or how you came out, I feel like you were meant to be here because God makes no mistakes, okay? So you have to understand just because you may have recessive gene disorder, which is the nicest name they have for inbred children, just because you have parents that are related, you are not a sin, you're not an abomination, you're not a demon, you're not weird. Um, you know, God chose you to come out, and your mother and father chose you. And yeah, there are some people that will say, especially I'm an American baby. I was born here on American soil, and that's one of the biggest blessings I have. There are so many children like me born out of America, especially in the Middle East. And so one of the things, the taboos is that people get upset because they tell me all the time, Kehlani, why are you so partial to Middle Eastern nature? Why do you love, India so much? There's more like me in those countries. there's more like me and they normalize and they don't bash, and so yes, my heart has an aversion towards the Middle East. My heart has an aversion towards India. My heart has an aversion towards Spain. You know, these are countries that practice my birth and don't shame it, and they don't molest their children. It's one and done. One of the most dangerous things when you are inbred is to keep inbreeding. So it's only done one generation and then they have to marry outside. When we say marry outside, we mean marry someone that doesn't have your genetics. So, one of the things that hurts me is that as of late, I've had people say, "Oh, if your father would have lived, would you have married your father? Would you have gotten pregnant by your father?" No, that's not allowed because my mother is my father's daughter. So therefore, if I were to reproduce, that would be tripling it, and that child would come out too messed up. And that's not something that God loves, and that's not something that God wants. God wants us to have full range of our body. God wants us to have as much livelihood as we can. One thing you can avoid is even if you're a first generation inbred child, is that you're gonna have a sensitive immune disorder. I had a lot of people make fun of me when they found out who I am and what I am. Say, "Oh, you have HIV. I'm HIV negative. I have a sensitive immune system." It is nicknamed CIS, sensitive immune system. That means that I caught chickenpox 3 times. There was no avoiding it. After you catch it 3 times, your body builds up a natural tolerance to it, so therefore I can't catch the measles or the mumps. I had my MMR shot. Um, I have a tendency to when I get a cold, it's awful. When I catch the flu, it's awful. I just caught the flu, so did my mom, the mom who is on my birth certificate. And one of the hardest things is that, you know, my mom who raised me, my mom who I believe to be my mom all my life and that I've just found out isn't my mom, um, you can't undo your brain. This woman has taken care of me since I was born. Um, that's pretty much all I know. And my real mom, I was raised to believe that she's my sister, the one that I put on my post. So I was raised to believe that my sister, that my mom, my birth mom is my sister, and that this is my real mom. So I think what hurts the whole circle is that the mom who's on my birth certificate, who raised me, was best friends with my father. Okay. And then they got married, and I'll never know the story because both women involved, they have their own pain. They both love me. And I don't know I can't tell you what my birth mom's psyche is on that. I can't tell you what the woman who's on my paperwork psyche is. All I know is that last year I found out, and so it's been a lot. And so I think the biggest thing is when I say my mom, I'm talking to you about the one that's on my birth certificate. When I say my mom, the one that's on my birth certificate, I'm gonna say BM for birth mom, and I'm gonna say mom for the one who's on my birth certificate. So the biggest thing is when, me and my mom, like, she still struggles with it, like, she still won't admit it. She has said it, she has said it out loud, but her psyche is that I'm her baby. Her psyche is that what happens when a child like me is born and you've had this baby from the time that it was born is that my mom's psyche is that she gave birth to me, even though that she didn't, because she's had me since I was first born. So her mind has adapted to it that no, I pushed out this child. No, I gave birth to this child. And so you have to understand that it's a really complicated way of life and you can't just disconnect. Like your brain doesn't just disconnect. It's like asking my mom to undo taking care of me her whole life. And it's like asking my birth mom to undo getting pregnant. You can't undo her getting pregnant. You can't undo her raising me. And so, one of the biggest things where it hurts people is that my birth mom is not homosexual. I'm not homosexual, and I'm not going to say what my mom on paper sexuality is. I was raised in a household with no other man, so you put two and two together. My mom, who's on paper, never remarried. She never had any men in the house with me. Um, and that was her choice. And so, you know, I'll be doing another podcast on how that affected me, and everything like that. And that's the biggest thing is that when you're born this way, people try to keep you forever young. And what I'm saying is forever young is everybody looks at you as a baby. Even when you hit 18, even when you hit 21, even when you hit 35, I'm 37 and I'm a mother. And one of the biggest struggles is I am so tired of everyone looking at me as this baby when it's like you have to know all the pieces of your puzzle so that you can be full and you can be healed. And so, one of the biggest things that I am so thankful for now is having the pieces of the puzzle. Now I have the pieces of my puzzle. Now I know who I am. Now I know how I was born. And now I know who everyone truly is. And so, to protect my birth family and to protect my mom, who has been my mom on paper all my life, it hurts me. It hurts me internally because it's like, oh, cover your mouth. You're sworn to secrecy. You have to walk around with this huge burden on your back. It's like invisible wings. Everyone calls you an angel. Everyone expects you to just be perfect. Everyone just expects you to just hold your head up high and be a money bag. And so for me, one of the biggest things that I've resolved to in 2026 is I don't want to be a money bag to anyone anymore. Like, I want to make my own money and I want to be a money bag to myself. And I never wanted my child, when I say baby 5 star, you guys know who baby 5 star is. She's not allowed in this video. She's over there in the living room doing her own thing. But and as you can see, I keep doing this to keep her from getting in the video. But yes, baby 5 star is here with me and I'm not related to her father. And so that's one of the things that's hard for inbred people, constantly being made fun of. Um, whether you're inbred or not, um, some of us tend to scar hypotrophically. And so, yeah, I wouldn't have gotten as much ink. I wouldn't be getting this much ink if I didn't have scars. Like I'm covering a scar right here. It's a hypertrophic scar. And so thank God for Amazon for making these beautiful temporary tattoos. They're like real tattoo artists and they stencil it and they make it last for up to 2 weeks. So it's like every week and a half I'm re-putting this on. But just keeping baby 5 star safe. Um, I haven't been able to finance the real thing. And so inking real ink this year and stopping having to put on these, because I flattened the scars that I'm covering with ink. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So I just wanted to tell you this year that I'll be filming more podcasts and just letting you get to know who I am, Kehlani Deveaux. Um, I want you guys to understand and just I want to try to break the taboo about people like me, children like me, women and men like me, um, we feel, we're human. Everyone's human. No one can choose the way they're gonna be born. Like, all I know is that when my father died and gave up the ghost when I was 2.5, he left money to my mom who's on paper, and his money carried through all the way until I would have been 24. Had I not decided to go to college at 16, which I went to a technical college. And so when I graduated that technical college and got my phlebotomy and medical assistant license, it cut off the survivor benefits, from my mom on paper. But had I just sat there and did nothing until 24, my father's money would have just kept going until I was 24. So he was a wonderful, wonderful man, loving, loving man. And no, he did not regret me. No, he was not disgusted by me. In his will, on his pension, he put on there, take care of my baby. So I was definitely loved by the man who gave up the ghost. And my birth mom, she probably carried a lot of shame because she made me think that I was her sister, which, you get what I'm saying? Genetically, I am her sister and her child at the same time, you know? And so my aunts were really my sisters my whole life. And my birth mom was really my birth mom my whole life. And so there's a lot of weird, and we gotta laugh sometimes at our pain. There's a lot of weird and fun stories I'll be dropping in 2026. And so I eventually lost all contact with my birth mom when I was around 30. No, not 30, when my big sister, I can't say her name, well, I can say her name. When my big sister Shay turned 30, that was the last time I saw her. I went to my big sister's birthday party, not knowing she was my big sister. I thought she was just my niece. And my birth mom was there, my uncles were there. Um, God, if only we could rewind time and love on them for who they truly are. I can imagine how nervous they must be and have been keeping that secret in. I can't tell you you're my niece. I can't tell you I'm really your mom. I have to pretend to be your sister and your brother and your niece. And the trauma that gives them and the trauma we all have. But yeah, the last time I saw my real family, my sister had turned 30. And so haven't seen them in person since. I'm, like 37 now, like I said. It gets so confusing, you know. When I try to do the math, that was in what, 2018. Okay, so we're in 2026, guys. So that was 8 years ago, right? So if my birth sister was 30 in 2018, okay, right? She turned 30, la da da, la da da la, right? Um, yeah. So, anyways, guys, like I was saying, there's a lot, and I don't even know if that was really her 30th birthday because they say that she's older. Because think about it, if she turned 30 in 2018, okay, right, and I'm 37 right now, that would make me old. So, anyways, guys, there's just so much that doesn't make sense, right? Because she was raised to be older than me. So, I guess I'm not allowed to know her real age, whatever. But anyways, they said that it was her 30th birthday and there was a big bash. There's so many questions I just won't ever know. She is older than me, so apparently I'm not allowed to know her real age. Um, we went to middle school together and she was always like a grade above me. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, back to the story. This podcast today is just giving you a introduction to, more of who I am. Thank you so much for watching my channel. My name is Kehlani and I love you guys so much. You are watching Kehlani 5 stars, and I just want you to know that you matter regardless of if you were inbred, regardless if you were born naturally. Some of you may be children at the age of 13 or above watching my channel, and you may not find out until you're like me, until you're in your 30s. And I just want you to know, if you're in a home right now where they're not beating you or sexually molesting you, things of that nature, then you got to hold on. You got to hold on and just pray that God shows you the truth. And the only thing I ask is that I pray that if you suspect that you're inbred and you're under the age of 18, that as soon as you turn 18, just ask for a DNA test. Just ask for a DNA test. Do it kindly, do it respectfully so you don't lose so much of your life not knowing who you are, so that you can be medicated. I didn't get medicated, like I told you, until after I had baby 5 stars in 2019. And so you need to have the proper psychiatrist. You need to have the proper therapy team so that you can get the correct medicine so that you can live a life on purpose with purpose and not be used and played with. Before I end this podcast, guys, I know I was about to sign off. One of my biggest things of my whole life has been my decision making process. I wasn't properly medicated with psych meds, which I am on psych meds right now, anyways. And so, one of the biggest things is my decision making process was off. So, I was constantly being misled, I was constantly being sexually manipulated. I was sexually manipulated from the age of 15 to 30. For 15 years, I was sexually manipulated. Okay. And so it is so normal when you're a teenager to date. It's normal when you're a teenager to get on birth control. It's normal when you're a teenager to have sex with another teenager. So the way that I was raised was completely weird. And so, anyways, my mom, who's on paper, she isn't here right now while I'm filming this podcast. She's at a doctor's appointment getting a mammogram. And so, when I go over these sensitive topics, guys, it's only me and baby 5 stars. And it's so important that you get your feelings out away from the birth mom, away from the mom or dad on paper, away from, I think the only person I could have trusted with my emotions is my birth dad, who died when I was 2. But you have to get your emotions out and you have to tell your own story because so many people will try to tell your story and make you look absolutely insane. So thank you so much to YouTube for making this platform so that we can tell our story. We can tell what we truly are and who we really are. All right, guys. You are watching Kelly 5 Stars podcast, and I thank you so much today for learning the first part of my story. And I can't wait until next week to share another part of my story. Remember, whether you're inbred or not, you matter. Bye.